the people working in agencies, whether they're creative or in the digital sector, and they become talented in their roles they're doing, and then they progress into leadership roles, managing a team, and doing that requires a whole different set of skills to what they've been doing before. So, in your opinion, Claire, just to get us going, what is that role of a line manager in an agency? What is the function that they provide?
So, thanks for the introduction, Jay. I think I tend to say a line manager's role, there's kind of two key fundamental parts to it. So it's helping individuals to develop and helping them to deliver. So that's in terms of their skills, so making sure they've got the right skills that they need to be able to do their jobs, growing them and developing those skills, but also then be able to deliver for the business. So the line manager it's quite an important role because there's that connection between what the business needs and what the individual needs as well, and what they want to be able to do. So making sure that they can oversee and support somebody's development to achieve their professional goals, but also to be able to deliver, make sure it's aligned with what the business needs as well, and the direction that the business is going in.
Yeah, that's a great summary. Develop and deliver. I like that. Reminds me of a
Don't steal it.
Yeah, develop and deliver. I promise you I won't steal it. That's really, that is really nice. So you've started your career in the agency out of university. You're flying at your role. You're getting better and better at your specialism, whether that's copywriting or graphic design or in a digital arena. And then you become a team manager. You become a line manager. Is that the right route to get to be a line manager? Do you have to go through all that learning and becoming a specialist? Is that the only route to get in there? What's your thought around that, Claire?
It's a challenging one. I think in an ideal world, people would be able to kind of follow the path that they want and just focus on whichever skills that they want to develop. So if you are, copywriter, just continue to be a great copywriter and start to do different types of copy, and whether you're moving into speeches and whatnot. But that's not the way of the world, is it? In agencies, you still need people that can manage teams. As you progress, it's naturally that you will then have people that are going to be coming, up through the ranks beneath you. So you still need to be able to have those skills that mean that you can manage teams and manage people as well. Now, people might not love it, might not particularly enjoy it, but it's necessary. We're in agencies are people businesses, aren't they? We need people to be able to deliver the work for clients. So you need to make sure that you've got those right people in place to be able to manage those people and to give them the skills and the confidence and the motivation to be able to do the job that's needed. So we know that people leave because of bad managers. That's really common in all kinds of industries, especially in the agency world. So I think we need to then make sure that we're giving people the opportunity to be good managers, even if they might not necessarily want to be, because we need to make sure that we've got people managing teams doing the best that we can to give them those skills to be the best managers that they can be, rather than just learning as they go.
And that to me is something that I see time and time again. And I'll use the example of the account management team, because I think this is where I see it the most. That you see an individual come out of university, they typically start as an account exec, and then through a series of coincidences, often it's money related, but they very quickly find themselves an account manager, then a senior account manager, and then they'll become an account director. So they have this progression through their career, and it's in that account team I see this the most. And they get to that point of an account director, and they're often there because of the money, the salary is being paid, so it equals, well, that's your role. But the agency, and I think agencies are particularly poor at this, haven't, to touching on your point there, haven't given the skills, the guidance, the mentoring that they really need to be an effective account director, both dealing with the clients, but also managing that team of AMs and SAMs and potentially AEs underneath them. And for me, that causes a huge challenge in this industry. So what what schools and skills and tools, I'm guessing, that what do the agency leaders need to be giving their line managers to support them and get that development into those people to be able to manage their teams and ultimately the clients? And is there any places where you've seen offer really good input into this or training for those account directors or anyone really who's driving into that leadership program?
Yeah, I think you completely hit the nail on the head in that people rise up the ranks and then don't really know, aren't necessarily given that support to be able to do the job properly, whether that's the people side of things, or even sometimes it comes to like budget management and things as well. One day you're focused on your own set of work and your own list, and suddenly you've then got lots of other people's work and budgets and things to be aware of. From from a people management and that line management side of things, offering that training and support, I guess just ideally, just before somebody starts to get into that position of having to line manage, to being able to give them that training and understanding, well, what are the key skills that they're going to need as they start to progress, because we're working in teams. So helping them to understand, okay, how do you understand people? What do you need to do to be able to understand people's different strengths and their goals and ambitions and motivations? Helping them, giving them that knowledge of the direction that the business is going in. I think that's really important. I think agencies that I see that really are quite clear with the whole team in terms of the direction that the business is going in, what their plans are, what their strategy is, it makes it easy for those managers to then manage their teams as well, because they know what the vision is, they know what the long-term plans are, so they can help their colleagues go along that path, and they can set the right objectives and things that will help to align. I think also giving them those, obviously coming from a comms person, communication skills, are really important as well. So giving people those skills to be able to listen properly and to understand how to, do things like giving feedback. We're often not very good at being able to give people feedback properly. And how do you give feedback in a way that is constructive, that's useful, that people can then do something with it? And there's been research to say that actually we generally tend to give feedback to men and women in different ways. So how do you make sure that we are giving consistent and strong feedback that's going to help somebody to develop? And as I say, I think those agencies that start to do that early on and giving people those skills early on are probably the ones that then do a better job of creating good line managers, because they've started to build those skills nice and early.
So I totally agree with that vision and values piece. If you're aligning your whole company with those visions and values, I absolutely agree. It becomes probably easier and nicer to then manage your team, because you've all got the common goal. And if you've got people in your team that haven't got that common goal, you've probably got to question, are you the right agency for them anyway? But the thing I think that I picked up on there is it's okay saying, giving them communication skills, giving them these skills. How do you give positive criticism? I don't see many agencies invested in that for their team, being really honest. I don't see many agencies having a budget for that development, mentoring of the senior leadership team, line managers, etc. So in your experience, do you find agencies try, well, I guess there's one of three routes here. Do you find agencies try to build that program in-house? Do you find agencies say, right, we'll always outsource this and we'll bring in specialist organizations, people like self, Claire, to help us at the points we need that? Or do you see agencies just go, we'll just let them wing it and hope for the best? Where where do you see that happening in agency? I've got my own view on it, but what's yours?
And I obviously I'm going to speak from my experience, not going to speak for the whole agency sector, but I do think that most agencies let people wing it. I think they often focus so much on, getting the job done for clients, or, we've given you promotion, you be happy. So they don't necessarily take the time to kind of, stand back and say, okay, then how can we make sure we are giving people the best chance of being the best line managers that they can be? So it's often I don't think it's necessarily intended to occur to a lot of people until there's an issue, to be honest. I
Yeah,
think until there's a problem where somebody's saying that they struggle to get on with their line manager, or you find out in somebody's exit interview that they've had problems with their manager, then that's when people act, which is a bit too late. It's much better to be more proactive about it and start to do that work earlier on.
yeah. I think I'm with you. I think most of the agencies I work with, there is an element of a combination of trying to develop it in-house, but it's not often a priority. It's not a big rock of the business.
Yeah,
We coupled with a bit of winging it as well, which I always find incredible when, as you said there, people often leave due to poor management, poor direction, and then the cost of the
yeah,
replacement of that person is huge in terms of, just the recruitment of that person to start with can be fairly high these days. And then you've often got that period of not being really utilized or recoverable, why that person gets used to it. So for me, I just look at agency, think we should now in this day and age be looking at aligning our P&L and budget for the development and mentoring of that senior leadership team or
completely.
the management, because
Yeah,
it's in
yeah.
their own interests.
No, completely. And I think, whilst I could say people leave because of bad managers, that's not because the bad people are bad people.
People,
Often, if you haven't given somebody the tools to be able to do
correct.
the job, then we can't really critique them when they do it badly.
No, no. And I think that as well, it's such a challenging skill set to have that I find you often experience leaders don't know how to do the PDPs or the 360 feedback to their own leadership team.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it's really scaled from the top down. If it's not being done correctly at the top, I find that filters all the way through the agency.
No, you're right. You're right. And I think, at the end of the day, a lot of people go into setting up agencies not because they necessarily want to manage lots of people. It's because they're great at graphic design or social media, whatever it might be. But then as the agency grows, they've got to then build in these skills and things. So
Yep.
it makes sense sometimes to be able to get that additional support to help them to understand how to do the PDPs, how to be able to give feedback properly.
Yeah. So I think what we've looked at there is, you might have progressed through your career and been really good at being a digital person or a creative. You've been promoted to a line manager in the senior leadership team. We've talked about maybe the agency's not providing that mentoring or that training and support to make them great managers. Um, but there's another side where you might never want to become a manager. You're really happy at being a great creative, and actually taking that role on just doesn't feel right for you. A great example, I think, is people who work in a sales function. They'll
Yeah,
often be a salesperson for many years, and then all of a sudden they're promoted to a sales manager, or they have to then manage a team, and they've gone from managing. I say this to lots of people in sales, think about it carefully before you do it, because you go from managing one number, your own, to
yeah,
managing 2, 3, 4, 5 people's number as a collective, and that becomes very challenging. So I always think it's not. It doesn't have to be for everyone. Not everyone doesn't need to crack on and push on to be a manager. But if they don't, I think then you've got this challenge of the motivation of someone,
mm,
and obviously it can't just be through more money all the time. So what's your view on that? How do you keep those people that are really good at their role, they love what they do, they come work every day with a passion? How do you keep them within the agency supported, motivated, and just not always through that reward, or you're being promoted to do something you probably don't
yeah.
really want or like doing?
I think that's a really good point, because actually we always assume that everybody's motivation is to get to the top and to be the managing director or the creative director, whatever it might be. And it's good to understand that not everybody wants that. So being able to tap into somebody's genuine motivations and priorities is really important. And look at what else they find interesting. So are there learning, new opportunities that you can give them that aren't necessarily giving them more responsibility. But again, going back to the direction that your business is going in, well, actually, what else could that person contribute to in terms of maybe new projects or research or within the business that person can contribute to? Are there additional things that are going on within your agency that person might be able to work on as part of their role? Can they move horizontally apart from moving up vertically? If you've got somebody working in maybe a particular specialism, they might want to expand their skill set. Could you look at letting them move over to another part of the team if they're really, really keen to learn new things or work on new types of projects? So I think looking at that, as I said at the start, understanding people as individuals and their motivations, that can help you to then look at a path that works for them, but again, works for the business as well. So being able to tap into who they are and what it is that they want to achieve, and you can find the best way to keep them motivated, to keep them in the business, but still help them to contribute to the direction that you're going in.
Yeah, and just thinking about that has got to come from an understanding that a really strong, whatever you might call it, a monthly review, a quarterly or half yearly PDP, to really understand where people are and where they'd like to go, their motivations, as you said, because it's not always the same. And again, I think that then comes down to those people in the leadership team really being able to have the skill set to pull that out of people. So I think that again comes back to the training and mentoring. I think looking at that from, if I was an agency leader or like I run my business here, I think one of the things that jumps out to me, and I know other agency leaders would feel this, if you've got Claire saying, I'm great at being a designer and fantastic, but I'd really like to move into the digital arena. I'd really like to increase my skill set there. I think one of the first things you would feel is, right, I'm going to have a period of not getting that great work from Claire. Because we need to spend the time then developing what she would like to do in the digital side of things, as an example. How do you think agency leaders should approach that? Is it, do we just have to like plan for it, or have you seen any good examples of where that happens, and how can you equip yourself to deal with those things? Because if you've got this PDP in place and then someone says, I want this, but then your machine can't support that, we're back to somebody saying, I want this, but then being disillusioned.
I think it's definitely about balance though, isn't it? It's understanding, yes, okay, then they might want something, but if the business isn't ready for it just yet, but you can have that conversation with somebody. I mean, I can talk about my own experience. Many years ago, I first started out doing B2B technology PR many moons ago, and I got to a point where I wasn't as interested in it, and sat down with my old boss at the time, and I said I was more interested in doing more of the corporate stuff, and they said, okay, then great, definitely think you've got the skills to be able to do it, but it's going to take us time to be able to get you to move over to that team, because obviously I've still got clients that I need to service on my tech side of things. But then we're able to agree kind of a period of time to say, okay, then, well, be patient. In a couple of months, we'll get you starting to work a bit on this particular client and seeing how that goes. So it's definitely more of a transitional period rather than just, finish in tech on Friday and start in corporate on Monday. It was a transitional period, and because we had that mutual respect and that relationship, I had that trust with them to think, okay, then I do think they're going to make that happen. So we looked at it over a period of time. So that gave me an opportunity to start to learn those new skills and to understand those new sectors, but it meant that I was still being able to do the job with my current clients on the tech side, and over a period of time I was able to move over.
Transition across. And I think that's a really, really important point. So it sounds like there you've basically said, over a period, 6 months as an example, this is the plan that will get me to there. And then when you was having your reviews, one-on-ones, PDPs, were they the, if you like, the rocks that you had to go through together? And where did you feel supporting that from the line manager? Did you feel like that was genuinely something that was you could see happening as you went through?
Yeah, definitely. Like I say, we put that plan in place, and it was very much, I was asking them for something, but they were asking me for something too. So it was a two-way. It's definitely a two-way thing. I need to make sure that I am still hitting those goals and those objectives and things. But it meant that it gave us something to refer to over that period of time to say, okay, then have we hit this milestone? What do we think? Does anything need changing? How can we make sure that we can hit the next target or the next milestone? What other support do I need, whether that's other training or support from somebody else on the team, and what does that look like? And it meant that other people as well within the teams knew that that was happening. So there's that transparency. People knew that I was going to be moving over to a new team. So they were aware that were changes taking place. So it's definitely around, it is a two-way thing. Like I say, an employee just saying, I want X doesn't always mean it's going to happen. You look to see if it's possible. If you want to keep that person in the business, then you look at ways to make it happen, and you agree something that works for both sides.
Yeah, with a structured
Yeah,
path to that happening, with regular reviews and feedback to make sure that moves forward. That does make sense. And I think again, it comes down to that skill of the line manager to be able to put that in place,
yeah.
and in your case, how you transition through to that. I know that's really interesting. Amazingly, Claire, we're at 9:54. That's
Oh
gone
wow.
so fast. Matt, I've really enjoyed chatting to you. Believe it or not, lots of things on there are things we've been going through here at the Agency Works. We've been trying to put all these things in place. I'm experiencing it firsthand from here. So it was great speaking to you. Before we let our guests run off for the weekend and get start thinking about gin and tonics, we always ask for sort of one final takeaway. What piece of advice would you give to agencies from the things we've been discussing today? What could they go away with today and go, yeah, that's really good advice?
Don't assume that everybody can line manage. Don't make that assumption. So if you get that assumption out of your mind, make sure you're then giving everybody that support and that training to be able to be a good line manager, because you'll get the reward from that later on.
Yeah, brilliant advice.